Graduation was getting close, and my princess of a roommate was crying about how much she'd miss me. I joked to mess with her, "Well, if you're so broken up about it, why don't you just marry me and take me home?" The princess nodded seriously and lunged in for a kiss. "Okay, wifey, I'll marry you." I dodged out of the way. "Hey, don't get any ideas. We're both girls." The princess went silent. That night, I overheard her on the phone. "Bro, do me a favor. Help me marry a wife." Senior year, coming back to campus to defend my thesis felt like being released from prison. I was so happy I could have exploded. I was pulling all-nighters and partying non-stop. But then I got a little too reckless and messed up, big time. I was riding my e-scooter late one night, forgetting I'm basically night blind, and wasn't paying attention when I slammed into a sleek black luxury car. The cop shook his head while writing the report. "I don't get it. You managed to dodge every single pothole, but you just had to pick the most expensive car on the block to hit." The car was brand new, not even insured yet, and I was 100% at fault. The owner never said a word to me, just kept emailing me repair bills. Every time I saw those strings of numbers, my vision went black. I felt so helpless, like I wanted to die but couldn't even afford a grave. I hadn't officially graduated yet, so I couldn't find a proper job. But I was desperate to pay off the debt, so during my post-grad gap, I started looking everywhere for part-time work. My mom called and said it was a huge lychee harvest this year and asked if I wanted to come home and pick them for $50 a day. Of course I did. At this point, I'd stripped that lychee orchard bare with my own 2 hands. I immediately bought a ticket home for that night. I was going to tell Sydney first. But she was still out of town on a trip. So on the way to the station, I sent her a voice memo. "Sid, I'm heading home." Just then. Before I could finish, the driver slammed on the brakes. I lurched forward, and my hand slipped, sending the message. Sydney was traveling, so she didn't reply right away. By the time I got to the station, she started a voice call with me. Her tone was weirdly calm. "Alice, you left something really important behind." I thought back, then asked, confused, "What?" "I'm sure I packed everything." Her voice on the other end suddenly got frantic. "It's something really, really important. You need to come back right now." I was even more baffled. I was so broke right now that I had even carefully packed the tube of toothpaste I have to roll up and squeeze just to get a drop out. How could I have possibly left something important behind? I replied, "I really don't have anything important left at school." I said, "You do, so you do. You do, you do, you do. Just come back." Sydney's family is loaded. She's the classic rich girl who's been spoiled her whole life. She can be a bit bratty and willful, and she starts throwing a tantrum when she gets worked up. But she's not totally unreasonable, and she's got a sweet face and always smells nice and feels soft, so once you get used to it, it's actually kind of cute. Before I could say anything else, she decisively hung up. I ignored her and got ready to scan my ID to enter the station. The next second, my phone chimed with that beautiful notification sound of money arriving. A transfer for $5,000. From Sydney. See? Isn't she just the cutest? The note attached to the transfer was blunt and to the point. "Take the money, cancel the ticket, come back." All right, then. I remember now. I remember everything. I definitely left something important behind. I obediently went back to the apartment Sydney and I shared off campus. The second I walked in, she rushed over and hugged me. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying, and she mumbled, "Alice, you can't leave." I didn't have time for her drama. I was in a hurry to get back and earn my $50. I finally managed to peel her off me. I quickly asked, "So what was the important thing I left behind?" Sydney's eyes darted away for a second, but she quickly put on her usual proud expression. She put her hands on her hips, tilted her head, and pointed a thumb at herself with total confidence. Me. I was speechless. "Hey, why aren't you saying anything?" Aren't I important to you? I've spent the best 4 years of my life living with you. How many 4 years like that does a person get? Alice, say something. What am I to you? Seriously? Princess, you're making me sound like some deadbeat who hooks up with you and then ghosts. Sometimes I really feel like calling the cops on her. But she just sent me $5,000, so I had to paste on a smile and say, of course. You're the most important thing to me. I practically ground my molars to dust. Sydney was still going on and on. I was so scared when I came back and you weren't here. Alice, you're so cruel, leaving me all alone like that. We've been together day and night for 4 years, and now that we're graduating, you're just going to up and leave. I don't approve. I raised my hand to rub my brow, but Sydney immediately leaned her head under my hand. She was basically asking me to comfort her. I sighed and gently stroked her silky hair. I felt bad, but I had to say it. But Sydney, we have to go our separate ways eventually. And even though that day is coming soon, I'm just going home for a bit. It's not like I'm dying. If you want to see me, I can come visit you, or you can come visit me. It's not a big deal. Sydney's a local here in Chicago, I'm not, and I don't have the means to build a life here. If we hadn't gotten into the same university, I probably would have never had the chance to meet and become friends with someone like her. The fact that we became friends was a total fluke. 4 years ago, as a freshman, I wasn't getting along with my roommates. I was ostracized and isolated. My request to switch dorms was denied, so I wanted to move out. But our school is in the city center, and the rent for apartments nearby was astronomical, way more than a student like me could afford. This school can go to hell, I thought. I quietly climbed up to the school's rooftop, not to do anything crazy, just to invite the dean to come enjoy the breeze with me. But after sitting on the roof for ages, nobody even noticed me. I was bored out of my mind. I started scrolling through my phone. That's when I saw a post from Sydney on the campus confessions page looking for a roommate. Her parents had bought her the apartment, but it was too big, and she was bored and a little scared living alone. She wanted someone to keep her company, no rent required. My eyes lit up, and I slid into her DMs immediately. I figured the competition would be fierce, so I padded my resume with a ton of crap before sending it to her. But it turned out that, either because of rumors or because she'd pissed someone off, there was a thread on the campus forum about her being a spoiled brat with a bad temper that had over 1,000 comments. She never bothered to deny any of it. So I'd been worried for nothing. There was no one competing with me. I immediately climbed down from the roof of the academic building and scurried over for the interview. When we met, she asked me to cook a meal for her to see my skills. The truth is, I couldn't really cook. That, combined with my nerves, meant that after a lot of fumbling, all I managed to produce was a plate of egg fried rice that was somewhere between soupy and solid. I can't imagine how awful it tasted. But Sydney ate the whole thing without a word, tears in her eyes. I'd met my share of charming rich girls, but never one who was so eager to please. When I first moved in, I was really nervous, afraid she wouldn't like me either. But after living together, I realized Sydney was actually a great person. When she posted a 9-photo grid of fancy, expensive meals to her feed, she'd put the egg fried rice I made for her right in the center. She'd hang the little cloth doll I sewed for her from her $1,000 handbag. She'd find any excuse to send me money or gifts, for reasons as small as me just smiling at her. I'd thought to myself countless times, who the hell said she had a bad temper? She's a literal angel. The truth is, I was going to miss her like crazy, too. But I knew that after we graduated and left school, even if we saw each other, we wouldn't be as close as we were now. Sydney shook her head wildly at me. Who says we have to separate after graduation? I don't approve. If you leave, who's going to make me egg fried rice, sew me dolls, peel my lobster, and cut my watermelon? I'll miss you so much, you're not allowed to go. Your family's housekeeper can do all of that for you. It's not the same. You're my bestie. It's my bestie doing those things for me. She must do all that because she genuinely likes me. Ugh, you don't have a best friend forever like Alice, so you'll never get it. I said nothing. I felt a little guilty and looked away. She saw me as her bestie, and I saw her as my personal ATM. Sydney was still on a roll, listing all the things I'd done for her over the years. Nobody else used to like me. They all said I had a bad attitude. You were the only one who stood by my side and told me I was great. And even though you never said it, I know you were the one who took down that forum thread. You looked so cool when you were hacking. When I was sick, you skipped your exam to take care of me. You had been studying for that test for so long, and it was obviously important to you, but you just said you hadn't reviewed and didn't want to take it. But I saw how worn out your textbook was. I used to have an eating disorder and only weighed, like, 80-something pounds. You didn't even know how to cook, but you forced yourself to learn for my sake. You cut your fingers so many times, and your arms were covered in burns from splattering oil. The reason I'm so healthy now is because you fed me, bite by bite, like a mom. As she spoke, she actually started to cry. I panicked, not knowing what to do. The atmosphere suddenly felt heavy. I can't stand sentimental moments like this, so I tried to lighten the mood with a joke. If you're going to miss me that much, you should just marry me and take me home. At that, Sydney's crying stopped instantly. Her pout vanished, replaced by a serious expression. She looked like she was genuinely considering what I'd said. After a moment, she sniffled and nodded solemnly. Okay. I'll marry you. I know her. That look on her face wasn't a joke. She was serious. I quickly put a hand out to stop her head from burying itself in my chest and dodged away. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. Don't get any ideas, we're both girls. I was kidding. I was genuinely scared Sydney would take it seriously. I'd heard recently that her parents were trying to set her up in an arranged marriage. If they found out I'd led their daughter down a different path, they'd probably hold both our heads in a vat of herbal soup to purify us. Sydney wasn't annoyed that I'd dodged her. She started counting on her fingers, calmly analyzing the situation. We've lived together for so many years, our lifestyles and personalities are totally in sync, we know everything about each other, we've met each other's parents, and we both love each other. It would be a shame not to get married. She had a point, but not much of one. I tried to explain it to her seriously. If one of us were a guy, maybe it could work. But we're both girls. Being best friends is great, too. Sydney fell silent, staring at me for a long moment before saying through gritted teeth, Fine, you want a guy, is that it? Don't you go anywhere. I have a plan. I'm not letting you go. I nodded, resting my head on my hands as I leaned back on the couch. I doubted she could come up with any real plan. But letting her ponder life for a bit would probably help her see reason. After chilling on the couch and playing with the cat for a while, I needed to use the bathroom. It had been long enough. Sydney must have finished her soul searching by now. I walked over to the bathroom and was about to knock when I heard Sydney's voice from inside. Bro, can you do me a favor? What's up? Sydney had him on speaker. A deep, magnetic male voice, tinged with the laziness of someone who just woke up, came through. I always knew Sydney had a brother doing his PhD in Germany, but I never knew his voice was so nice. It's super simple. Just say yes first. Sydney, if it were really simple, you wouldn't be saying that. Spit it out. No, really. Bro, my dear brother, if you knew what I needed your help with, you'd thank me. Isn't your car broken down? If you agree to help me, I'll let you borrow mine. A cold laugh came from the other end. It's not like I only have one car. Now hurry up, what do you need? Help me marry a wife. This was her plan. The other end of the line went silent, too. I guess her brother was as shocked as I was. He didn't say anything for a long time. Sydney kept mumbling on, trying to convince him. I wasn't really listening anymore, so when she opened the bathroom door, I was still standing there in a daze. Seeing my expression, Sydney guessed that I must have overheard her call. She waved her phone at me, looking a little proud. Alice, you said you couldn't marry me because I'm a girl, but I have a brother. He's a guy, tall, handsome, not dumb, and has a little money. You can't have a problem with that, right? I was speechless. Was I in any position to have a problem? But I didn't think this was a good idea. Besides, her brother was still overseas. It felt too immoral to drag someone into this from across the ocean. Seeing my hesitation, Sydney added, he's my actual brother. Same last name and everything. I can vouch for his character. Please, just stay, okay? My first instinct was still to refuse. He was already a PhD, which meant he had to be at least 28. A guy over 26 is basically ancient. I just graduated from college. I'm only 23. A woman past 23 is forever 18. A May-December romance like that would get me roasted online forever. Absolutely not happening. Doing a PhD in Germany, he's probably losing his hair and totally fried from the stress. And her brother hadn't said anything, which meant he obviously wasn't into the idea. With that in mind, I said to Sydney, no way. Unless your brother is Gavin Kane, it's a no-go. The moment the name left my lips, I froze. The owner of the luxury car I'd crashed was named Gavin Kane. I'd been getting repair bills from him constantly, and every time I opened one, I saw his name in big, bold letters. I'd wake up every morning another few $1,000s in debt to Mr. Gavin Kane. My life was just full of things to look forward to. Like looking forward to the end. So when Sydney mentioned the last name Kane, his name just popped into my head. Being tens of thousands of dollars in debt to him at the most powerless age of my life. That's more unforgettable than a first love. Once I realized what I'd said, I didn't bother to explain. Sydney didn't know the guy anyway. But whether she knew him or not was secondary. The important thing was for her to understand that her brother and I were impossible. Stop. Who did you say? Gavin what? What? What's his name? Sydney's voice jumped an octave, and she was suddenly, inexplicably excited. Her reaction startled me, and I replied weakly, Gavin. Gavin Kane. Ah. Alice. How did you know my brother's name is Gavin Kane? I was stunned. What a massive miscalculation. Not in a million years would I have connected Sydney with Gavin Kane. After all, one was my personal ATM, and the other was my creditor. The sheer volume of new information left my brain completely blank. I grabbed her and asked, didn't you say your brother was abroad? Sydney's eyes were sparkling, and she couldn't stop grinning. Oh, he just got back from graduation not long ago. We've both been so busy with our thesis defenses, I haven't had a chance to tell you. I've actually wanted to introduce you two for a while now. I never thought you already knew him. That makes things a lot easier. Alice, so what you meant just now was, if it's Gavin Kane, then it's okay, right? Sydney blinked her big eyes at me. When she puts on that cute act, it means she's determined to get a yes. Otherwise, with her princess-like personality, she'd never give up. But this time, I really couldn't give her what she wanted. I didn't know your brother was Gavin Kane. I was crying silent tears. If I'd known they were related, I would have kept my mouth shut. I looked at her apologetically and said, and besides, even if it is Gavin Kane, it's still a no. Why? Because. I paused. I hadn't planned on telling Sydney about the car accident from the start. Knowing her, she would have paid off the debt for me without a second thought. But I didn't want that. She had been so good to me these past 4 years, I didn't want to owe her even more. Plus, with graduation looming, it was already hard enough to say goodbye. If I let her help me financially, I'd have no reason to ever leave. Sydney tugged at my sleeve, pressing, because of what? Because I confessed my feelings to him once, and he rejected me, like, really harshly. So there's no chance for us. I couldn't think of a reason, so I just threw out a random lie. It's not like Gavin Kane would know. Hearing this, Sydney didn't reply. Instead, she glanced down at her phone. Then, she calmly lifted it to her face, cleared her throat, and yelled at the active call screen. Gavin Kane, you dared to reject my best friend? Are you trying to get yourself killed? Wait, what? Damn you, Sydney, why didn't you hang up the phone? I could die from overeating, starvation, exhaustion, or a heart attack, but please, not from social suicide. Fine, just let the world end. I squeezed my eyes shut. Gavin Kane, say something. Why did you reject her? Sydney was still relentlessly grilling him. I didn't dare to speak. The more I said, the worse it would get. The other end of the line was quiet for a moment, followed by a low chuckle. Gavin Kane's lazy voice drifted coolly through the speaker. Is that so? I don't recall her ever confessing to me, let alone me harshly rejecting her. Maybe I have amnesia. How about this? Why don't you have Miss Alice confess to me one more time? I frantically waved my hands at Sydney, mouthing no, no, no. I was begging her to stop. But Sydney was already over the moon, completely oblivious. She grabbed my flailing hands and put a finger to her lips, shushing me. She said to Gavin on the phone, "Pfft. In your dreams." I let out a sigh of relief. Sydney still had my back. This time, you're going to be the one confessing to Alice. I spoke too soon. My relief was premature. She had no idea what she was doing. I thought Gavin was just joking and would laugh it off, but he answered without hesitation, as casually as if he were buying a lemonade. Sure. I'll confess to her. Miss Alice, I need to confess to you. May I have your contact information? I was speechless. That PhD program really messed with his head. He wanted to confess his love without even meeting me. Sydney was nodding furiously. Sending it right now. Before hanging up, she added in a stern voice, you promised. Make sure you get it done, or I'll have someone take care of you. I was speechless. After some fiddling from Sydney, I really did receive Gavin Kane's contact info. After I added him, Sydney finally caught on. Alice, didn't you say you confessed to my brother before? How come you don't have his contact info? You're only just now realizing how full of holes my story is? 2 silent tears streamed down my face. I forced a laugh and said, email. We used to communicate through email. Sydney bought it. She leaned in, staring eagerly at my chat screen with Gavin, which was completely blank. She looked like she wanted to snatch my phone and send a message herself, but she was afraid I wouldn't like it, so she forced herself to resist, twisting her hands behind her back until her fingers were probably tangled like a pretzel. After all that drama, it was already midnight. A long time passed, and still no message from Gavin. Sydney couldn't stop yawning. She wanted to keep gossiping but was too sleepy to stay awake. With one last reluctant look back, she said, all right, I won't get in the way of you lovebirds. Let me know when it's official. I want a front row seat at the wedding. I was speechless. After Sydney went to bed, I stared at the empty chat screen, figuring Gavin was waiting for me to make the first move. It made sense. He was the esteemed creditor, after all. When you owe someone money, you should at least be polite. But the awkwardness of what had just happened was still fresh in my mind. Just thinking about it made me want to dig a hole and crawl into it. I just couldn't bring myself to start a conversation with him calmly. After hesitating for a long time, I remembered I still owed him money. That's it. My fingers flew across the screen. I transferred him 9.99. I still had the 5,000 Sydney had given me, but I didn't plan on touching it. That money was going back to her. I only had 7.30 left in my Venmo, so I went and did a bunch of those leave a good review for cash back things on some shopping app and scraped together another 2.60. Enough for a grand total of 9.99. It was a drop in the ocean, but it was all I had. A gesture full of sincerity, you know. Gavin didn't accept the money, but he replied instantly. He sent a question mark. Is this how you confess to people? Now you know why you got harshly rejected. Do I look like a man you can win over for 9.99? My face felt strangely hot. I squatted on the balcony, letting the cool breeze hit my face as I carefully explained, this is to pay you back for the car repairs. I'm not confessing to you. Gavin, do you even remember how much you owe? Not really. Numbers make me dizzy. I honestly couldn't remember. I didn't dare to remember, for fear I might do something drastic one night. But since he asked, I couldn't help but be curious and calculated the total. Oh, God. I'm not curious anymore. I think I just saw my great-great-grandma beckoning to me. Gavin sent back a string of ellipses. He was probably at a loss for words. After a moment, he asked again, so, when you crashed into my car, was that your way of confessing? Something about that question made me feel like he wouldn't rest until he got a yes. Why was he so obsessed with this confession thing? I quickly started typing a reply, telling him no, it was all an accident. But he was suddenly typing at lightning speed, and before I could respond, he sent 2 more messages. No reply means you agree. You succeeded. Very clever. Let me state for the record, I did not harshly reject you. Stop spreading false rumors. The reason I sent you the bills like that was to... He stopped mid-sentence. After a moment, he added, there's no rush on the money. You can take as long as you need to pay it back. I understood. I understood everything. He didn't dump all the bills on me at once. Instead, he was like a frog in slowly boiling water, sending 1 bill a day. Sometimes he'd even split a single item into 2 separate bills. He still hadn't sent them all, probably out of consideration for my poverty, afraid my heart couldn't take the shock. It all clicked. I instantly understood his kindness. I was so moved I couldn't help but spam him with thumbs up emojis. You're such a good person. I approve of you being Sydney's brother. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Gavin replied instantly, you don't need to approve of that. Even though I knew he didn't need my approval, I continued to play along with my creditor. Well, if you need my approval for anything else, just say the word. I'm at your service. Salute. You said it? I said it. I was moved to tears. It's rare to find such a kind creditor these days. At first, when I owed the money, I was terrified, constantly afraid he'd sue me if I made him angry. Now that he said there was no rush, I wanted to do a little happy dance and bow down to him. Gavin sent another message, then I'll be waiting for your approval. Approval for what? It's getting late. First, approve of us both going to sleep. Okay, I approve. Good night. Good night. Before falling asleep, I couldn't stop thinking about what a good person Sydney's brother was. He was being so incredibly decent about everything. My mind started to wander, and somehow, I ended up thinking about that embarrassing confession fiasco. My face felt hot all over again. Weird. I hadn't done anything, but I felt this strange sense of guilt. The next morning, Sydney wasn't home. She had gone back to campus to turn in some paperwork. I was in the living room, my laptop on my left and a stack of freshly printed documents on my right. I glanced from one to the other. After thinking about it all night, I realized I couldn't bear to leave Sydney. Even though working in Chicago would be tough, I wanted to stay with her a little longer. And it wouldn't be too late to go home after I finished paying off Gavin. But after spending half the morning browsing job sites and talking to recruiters, I felt completely defeated. I read through one job description and couldn't help but confirm with the HR rep, "Hi, does this position really not offer weekends off or benefits?" The reply came back, "Are you kidding? You're lucky to get 1 day off a week. This position doesn't offer benefits." I was silent. His tone made it sound like I was demanding an $880,000 dowry and 2 apartments in the city. These are basic requirements. He offered nothing, and he still had the nerve to list the salary as $3,000 a month? I'm done looking. My future was a chaotic mess. I tossed all the papers aside and lay back on the couch, staring into space. In a moment of sorrow, I tried to comfort myself. It's fine if I can't find a job. If I had connections, I'd have been set up with one already. Just as I was lost in thought, the doorbell rang. I snapped out of it and got up to open the door. It wasn't the first time Sydney had forgotten her keys. I opened the door without a second thought. But the person standing outside wasn't Sydney. It was a man. He was wearing a sharp suit, hands in his pockets. I gave him a quick scan: broad shoulders, narrow waist, long legs. His physique was incredible, and his face was handsome. Wait, is Sydney dating someone? I took another, closer look at the handsome stranger's face. When he saw me looking, he raised an eyebrow at me, a smile playing on his lips. I could have sworn he looked a bit like Sydney. Could this be Gavin Kane? No way. Sydney's brother is this handsome? He didn't look like some nerdy academic who'd been driven mad by his PhD. He looked more like a fresh-faced college student who just aced his SATs. I swear I'm not just saying that because I owe him a ton of money. Gavin stood there with his arms crossed, looking at me with amusement. What's wrong? Cat got your tongue? Not even a hello for the person who harshly rejected you. He really emphasized the word harshly. Thinking about the tens of thousands of dollars I owed him, I couldn't help but shrink back a little. I quickly stepped aside to let him in. Gavin strode in without a hint of politeness, like he owned the place. I stood there meekly and said, "Hello, sir." He stopped and turned to look at me, a hint of displeasure on his face. "Sir? Do I look that old to you?" Hold on, I was just being polite. How did this turn into a discussion about his age? I immediately shook my head. Not at all, not at all. I was just showing respect, sir. He cut me off. Sir again? I sighed in frustration and tried a different approach. Sydney's brother, what can I do for you? Satisfied, Gavin turned and glanced around the apartment. Sydney said she was sick. I came to bring her some medicine. I fell silent. Never mind that there was a major hospital just a half-mile walk from our apartment. No matter how sick she was, she wouldn't need Gavin to come all this way to deliver medicine. I'm here. What does she take me for? Besides, Gavin was clearly empty-handed. I was a little annoyed. So, where's the medicine? Gavin shrugged and held out his hands. Didn't buy any. Seeing my confusion, he explained, when she called me, her voice was louder than a bullhorn. Full of energy. She's not sick at all. I mumbled, then why did you come all this way if you knew? Gavin let out a low laugh, his voice lazy. It wasn't for nothing. 10 minutes ago, I didn't understand what he meant by not for nothing. 10 minutes later, I understood completely. After he devoured the cake I had just baked, the fruit I had just cut, and the spicy noodle soup I had just ordered. I completely understood. My stomach was growling, but I kept quiet, gritting my teeth. What could I do? I owed the man money. But I was determined to tattle on him to Sydney. I couldn't get my revenge myself, so I'd find someone to do it for me. My fists slowly clenched as I stood behind him, glaring daggers at his back. He was enjoying himself so much he started casually flipping through my stack of job search materials. He'd look at one, let out a cold laugh, and then toss it in the trash. That printing cost me dozens of dollars, you know. But I could only fume in silence. I just threw punches at the air in his direction. I'll get you, I'll get you, I'll get you. What are you doing? I was in the middle of a good swing when he suddenly turned around. It startled me so much my arm spasmed. I let out a nervous laugh. Just, working on my arm strength. Oh. You should. They look like they've never seen a workout. I was speechless. Please, teach me your ways of being so mean. Your resume is so impressive. Why are you looking for jobs that pay less than $5,000 a month? I didn't say anything. My resume might have been padded, but not as much as the empty promises these companies were making. At this pay rate, how long is it going to take you to pay back all that money? I couldn't help but count on my fingers. A decade or so, maybe. So much to look forward to. That's not going to work. Gavin threw all my papers into the trash and walked over to me. You're going to be working to pay me back no matter where you are, so you might as well just come work at my company. He handed me a business card. I glanced down, snatched it, and shoved it into my pocket without a second thought. I was afraid he'd change his mind. I had applied to this company 4 or 5 times before and been rejected every time. It had become an obsession. I was overcome with gratitude and started showering Gavin with compliments. Sydney's brother, you are truly a great person. Not only are you handsome, but you have a good heart too. A person like you is destined for great wealth. You'll have 99 kids in one go. You're my hero. I'll work hard, be your loyal servant, stick with you for life, and help you build an empire. I was about to continue when Gavin cut me off. Stop. Enough with all that. I immediately fell silent. I looked up at him with wide, hopeful eyes. Huh? Why is my hero's face so red? His ears looked like they were about to catch on fire. Oh, it must have been the spicy noodle soup. I quickly and eagerly went to get him a cold drink. But then he suddenly said, I'm not comfortable unless I have you right here where I can see you. I was confused. Not comfortable about what? I'm just not comfortable with you slacking off behind my back. If you don't pay me back, who am I supposed to complain to? Forget it. Let him burn. By the time Sydney got back, Gavin was already gone. I couldn't wait to share the good news about my new job with her. Sydney was thrilled for me. But after a moment, she seemed to realize something. Her smile faded, and she slammed her hand on the table. Wait a minute. My brother didn't come here to confess his love? I called him over here, and he promised me he would. How could he go back on his word? Sydney was gritting her teeth, clearly unhappy with Gavin. I was more than satisfied with getting my dream job. As for the whole confession thing, I wanted to explain. But I was afraid Sydney would flip out. I'll wait until the time is right to clear things up with her. I tried to soothe her. Don't worry, I'm not going back home now. You don't have to marry me, and your brother doesn't have to marry me. I'll stay by your side, I promise. Sydney listened, then hugged me and whimpered, making me promise to keep my word. But she was still a little disappointed. As she admired her fresh manicure, she muttered under her breath, it would be so nice if we could be a real family. Since I hadn't officially graduated yet, I started at Gavin's company as an intern. It was only after I started that I realized they weren't hiring this quarter. I was the only new recruit. A few days into the job, it dawned on me that Gavin hadn't sent me any more repair bills for a long time. I couldn't help but send him a message. Mr. Kane, is your car fixed yet? It is. Okay. Why? Thinking of hitting it again? I was speechless. Do I look like that kind of person? How could he think that of me? I was mad. I didn't reply. As I was leaving work, it suddenly started pouring rain. The subway station was a bit of a walk, so I lingered in the office, hoping the rain would let up. By almost 7 p.m., I was the only one left. I started singing at the top of my lungs while organizing some files. I was completely lost in my own musical genius. Suddenly, I felt a chill behind me. I spun around, and there was Gavin, standing not far away. It scared me so much my heart rate shot up to 120. Why are you so quiet? Gavin's lips curved into a smile. He shrugged, looking a little helpless. I wasn't. But someone was busy hitting the high notes and didn't hear me. I was speechless. I changed the subject. Are you that busy, boss? Working this late? Gavin glanced at his watch. Nope. Not busy at all. I was waiting for you. Waiting for me? I scratched my head. I'm really not planning on hitting your car again. You can go home, don't worry. Ever since the accident, I had learned my lesson. No more late-night e-scooter rides for me. And I wouldn't let you hit it again anyway. In your dreams. That's my baby, my new car. Sydney asked me to wait and bring you home for dinner. I was confused. Dinner? It's not Sid's birthday. Your Sydney insisted on celebrating the 8,222nd day of her existence. What can you do? That definitely sounded like something Sydney would do. After Gavin had been driving for a while, I realized we weren't heading back to Sydney's apartment near campus. We were going to his family's house. I had met Sydney's parents before and had been to their house many times, so I wasn't nervous. In fact, I felt as relaxed and excited as if I were going to my own home. On the way, Sydney sent me a picture. My parents secretly set my brother up on another blind date. The girl's been waiting for him for half an hour, and he's still not back. I opened the picture. It was a beautiful woman, curly hair, red lipstick, long legs. She and Gavin looked perfect together. I stared at the photo, a strange feeling of annoyance bubbling up inside me. Not knowing what to reply, I turned off my phone and stared out the window, trying to shake off the weird mood. That's when I belatedly realized just how slowly Gavin was driving. 5 shared bikes had already passed us, and an old man out for a walk had gone by for the 3rd time. At this rate, I wouldn't get to eat until Sydney was celebrating her 10,000-day anniversary. I was getting really hungry and couldn't take it anymore. Relax, no one's going to hit your precious new car but me. Can you please speed up? No rush. He kept his hands on the wheel, crawling along at a snail's pace, and even put on some soothing music. He was the picture of tranquility, completely ignoring the fact that I was dying. I deeply regretted getting in his car. If it wasn't still raining, I would have gotten out and run. But I'm so hungry. He sounded a little helpless. Can't be helped. I really don't want to go on this blind date. If we wait another 2 hours, they'll be gone. Oh, so he was trying to avoid a blind date. But 2 hours? Is there any way to get rid of them? Gavin glanced at me. Of course there is, he said in a low voice. But I can't seem to find it right now. I was hungry enough to eat a raw cow and wasn't thinking straight. I was just responding on instinct. What are you looking for? I'll help you find it. Sydney's brother, please just step on the gas. I'm looking for a girlfriend. Can you help me with that? As the words left his mouth, Gavin pulled the car over to the side of the road. He asked again, well? Can you help? How am I supposed to help you? I was completely baffled. Where am I supposed to conjure up a girlfriend that your family will approve of right now? You. Gavin's lips curved into a smile. As long as you agree, getting you fed right this second is just a matter of me flooring it. Fine, fine. He was using humanity's most basic need to blackmail me. I had no defense left. I nodded vigorously. I agree, I agree. Sydney's brother, as long as you get me some of your mom's fried meatballs right this instant. Forget boyfriend, I'll even call you my husband. Hearing that, Gavin froze for a second, then nervously reached up to touch his own face. My gaze followed his hand to his profile. My heart skipped a beat. How could someone's side profile be so sexy? I don't know where I got the courage, but my brain short-circuited. I leaned in close, planted a quick kiss on his cheek, and mumbled, there. Can we go home now? We're here. Huh? I looked out the window. Damn it. We were already here, why didn't you say so sooner? I glared at him, turning my back to him in a huff. He reached over and took my hand. A wave of warmth spread through my palm, and I couldn't help but squeeze his hand back. You kissed me. No take-backs, girlfriend. I hadn't even figured out how to tell Sydney, but Gavin insisted on holding my hand as we walked into the house. His reason was, how else are we going to scare off the blind date? But when we got inside, I realized something. There was no blind date. The long-legged beauty, upon seeing me and Gavin holding hands, lit up and ran over, enthusiastically calling me sister-in-law. Then she turned to Sydney. Sid. Come look. Your brother is finally showing off. You have a sister-in-law now. Me, Gavin, she was Gavin and Sydney's cousin. I have a feeling these two siblings set me up, but I have no proof. Sydney was the happiest person in the world that night. She was so happy she drank herself tipsy. Half awake, half drunk, she collapsed onto me, rambling on and on until she started crying again. Woo, you have no idea how much I did to get you two together. You think I sent all those videos to the family group chat because I just love sharing? No. Every single video was carefully angled. Alice, don't worry, I made you look so beautiful when you were working hard. I forced my brother to watch every single one. I refused to believe he wouldn't fall for you after watching for 4 years. At first, he was so reluctant to watch them. But later, when you were away for your internship, he kept asking me why I stopped posting. Hee, little did he know, you and I were video chatting every day. Sucks to be you, Gavin Kane. Alice, woo, I just couldn't bear to lose you. I was determined to make you my family for life. And look, I didn't even have to play matchmaker, you two met on your own. It's because I kept wishing for it, even fate was on my side. Bro, who celebrates their 22-year, 6-month, and 4-day birthday? If you wanted to have dinner with our Alice, you should have just said so. You had to make me have a birthday. You big baby. Bro, just admit it. You've been into my Alice for a long time, haven't you? Bro, I demand a seat of honor at your wedding. Bro, do you agree? If you agree, type I'm super into Alice in the chat. My eyes met Gavin's. I whispered to him, hey, do you agree? Gavin bit his lip, then leaned in and whispered in my ear. I'm super into Alice. Epilogue. Sydney has been incredibly annoying lately, always spamming our family group chat with a bunch of videos. And she insists I have to watch every single one. I don't get it. Why should I have to watch her eat that pig slop? And her roommate's cooking. I don't even want to talk about it. The potato strips she cut were so thick you could probably use them as load-bearing walls in my house. I didn't want to watch. I'd just mute the chat and let the videos expire without ever clicking on them. When Sydney found out I wasn't watching, she was furious. She threw a fit that wouldn't end. With the time difference, I was getting a storm of calls from her in the middle of the night. I thought I was going to lose my mind. So I learned my lesson. As soon as she posted a video, I'd open it, watch it carefully, and write her a detailed report on its contents. Every day, it was videos of her roommate. Her roommate cooking for her, her roommate fixing her computer, her roommate planting flowers, her roommate sewing clothes for her. A strange girl, forced upon me through a screen every single day. She always had a neat, shoulder-length bob, a small, light brown mole on her cheek, and she liked to wear pale yellow clothes. She had a great personality, always smiling, and her smile was a little shy. When Sydney filmed her, she rarely looked at the camera, but she never shied away from it either. Her gaze was always on Sydney, her eyes bright. They must be really good friends. My video summary reports got more and more skillful, and my own standards got higher. Sometimes, after writing one, I'd feel it wasn't good enough and would go back to re-watch the video, again and again. I thought to myself, if I ever ran into her on the street, I'd definitely recognize her in an instant. I couldn't help but ask Sydney, are you two dating? You film her constantly. What, are you jealous? I scoffed. What was there to be jealous of? It's not like I liked her, I ignored Sydney's question and asked another one instead. By the way, what's her name? Sorry, I'm a little short on cash right now, and my memory's been bad lately. I got the hint and immediately sent her $5,000. Remember now? I remember. Her name is Alice. Bro, you're acting weird. I replied to Sydney, it's just easier to write the reports if I have a name. Calling her your roommate every time is strange. For a long time after that, I probably typed that name on my computer countless times, both intentionally and unintentionally. Alice. For a while, Sydney was unusually quiet. She didn't post any videos in the group chat, only sharing things about herself. Without the reports to write, I actually felt a little restless. It wasn't for any particular reason. My hands were just itchy. I asked Sydney, did you run out of phone storage? Why'd you stop posting? You're not going to post anymore? Perfect. Saves me from having to write those stupid reports. Sydney shot back angrily, in your dreams. She's away for an internship. I'll start again when she gets back. I felt a strange sense of relief and replied, I'll be waiting, then. During the time Sydney wasn't posting, I went back and rewatched all her old videos. There were quite a few from when she first started that I had refused to open, and they had expired. A faint sense of regret crept into my heart. I thought, if I could go back to that day, I would have opened them without hesitation. After returning to the country, I bought myself a new car as a reward. But on the very first day I took it out, it got hit while parked on the side of the road. The other party was fully at fault and didn't argue. I was heartbroken about my new car and really didn't want to deal with it. I had my assistant handle it for me, but after the police sent me the report that day, I changed my mind. The car had been hit by Alice. She must have been strong. She couldn't see well at night, and yet she still managed to do tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage. More than the stupid car, I found myself inexplicably worried about her. That amount of money must have scared her half to death. I didn't add her as a contact or call her. I was afraid I'd really scare her so much she couldn't sleep. But I really wanted to contact her. And as luck would have it, I got her email address from Sydney. I broke the repair bill down into dozens of smaller invoices and sent her one a day. On every bill, my name was in bold, black font. As long as she opened it, the first thing she would see would be my name. I've remembered you for 4 years. I probably won't ever forget you. So, Alice, please, come get to know me, too.